Hey, welcome back to another episode of Under Construction from Pain to Purpose. I'm Ashley Krause and I'm one of your hosts. And today we're sitting here with Randall Byrge. Randall, how are you today?
I am doing awesome. It's been a good day.
I want to say thank you for your time and wanting to be a part of this. So we're just going to jump right in. So I have some questions here. So we're going to talk about personal connection. Can you share some of your personal connection to mental health and how it might intertwine with your own recovery and your experiences with substance misuse?
Mental health is one thing I'm still trying to figure out. Where I'm from, there's not a lot of talk about mental health. That's why we like to say, and it's okay to love Jesus and have a therapist too. For the longest time, everybody just said, you're crazy and stuff like that. So I still have some issues I try to figure out in my mind. Overthinking is a big thing for me, and trying to work through all those issues. Even 12 years sober, working my program, and doing my thing. It's still something that I have to keep a check on. And I never would have thought food has a big part to do with it. Exercise, which we're learning, I'm loving that now. The bad part is the things that people always told me would help me, really helped me, but I didn't believe it. It wasn't until I started doing it that I actually seen the benefits from it. So people can tell me stuff all day long, but when I start actually doing it, then I see the benefit and then I'm sold out on it.
Yeah, food can be a big one. I heard something recently that said exercise is the most underutilized antidepressant, and it just set with me because it's true. Like, and I'm not against medications for somebody's mental health by far, but how often are we encouraging folks to move, to get up and move your body?
Sure.
And I'm struggling with the food and trying to get up and create a routine of exercising, and it's hard. And I heard somebody say recently that 30 minutes of exercise a day is only 2% of your day. And I was like, man, that's just such a 30, that's all. I mean, you don't have to go and, spend hours in the gym. Go in, get it done, and get out.
Sure.
And man, for me, it makes me feel better. Like, I don't have the brain fog as bad. You feel a little bit better. So yeah, I definitely can relate with that.
For me, one of the things is maybe we don't like stigma a lot of times, but sometimes I still stigmatize everybody. So I thought everybody in the gym was beefcakes and everybody in there, to be swolled up. And it wasn't until I started actually going that I've made lifelong connections with people who even believe things completely different than but we have that common thing in there that we can start that relationship with, loving on each other, encouraging each other, which is such a weird thing, right? If we just encourage people to do better, and when I get my routine going and I'm exercising and I'm trying to do better, and to hear people say, "Hey man, we've been noticing you've been showing up," right? Like, keep doing. That helps me. Yep. And then when I'm at different times, like my schedule gets mixed up, we don't like change, right? But even through that, I've noticed that there's different people inside the gym that I do like to talk to. I'm a talker in the gym. A lot of people don't like that. I'm a talker, but I still do my things. And I've got some new friends and places to do ministry, people to love on and present the gospel. I told somebody the other day, some people can only present the gospel to people who've been saved and in church for 20 years. But can you present it in such a way where people don't want it, but they still respect what you have to say about it?
Absolutely.
I think you can.
Yeah, we can't push people into something they're not ready to hear.
Sure.
A lot like recovery. All day long we can force people, on a recovery path that we think that works well, because it might have worked for us, but what's the outcome going to be?
Sure.
Are they going to be successful? So you said that you've got 12 years in recovery, which is, I think, amazing. Can you share a little bit like what your path has been to recovery, how you got there?
Well, it just happens to be my favorite thing to talk about. So getting there was the hard part. And so for this question, I start right. When my family walked into the Stand Coalition, everybody had been telling, I come from good mom and daddy. And everybody told him, hey, cut him off, kick him out of the house. But a good mom and daddy do not want to do that.
Good old tough love.
And finally they said, if you want to continue to kill yourself, that's your business. And we're not going to help you no more. And I never thought my family would do that to me. And if they never would have, I never would have stopped. I would have took my family's house from them. I would have took, there was no stop in me. So I would have took everything. So when they finally locked me out, and I remember when they would go to work, they would tell me out, they would walk me out to the vehicle, and I could sleep in the driveway, and I wasn't allowed in the house when they were gone anymore. It's something that still like messes with me, but in a good way. Because now, like on the way over here this morning, I got to stop by and they let me inside. And 12 years later, people say, "Can't you get over it?" And I said, "I don't want to. I always want to be able to go to my mom and my dad's." And anyway, I got in a bunch of trouble. I'd lost all the jobs. You know, you get to this place where nobody's hiring you no more.
Yeah.
Nobody's loaning you no money. My family's going to the gas pump, filling up, giving me a little bit of gas. You come here and eat. We're all the tricks are done. Everybody's done with me. And everybody just kept telling me, you're never going to amount to nothing. You're never going to be nothing. And my brothers were successful doing their jobs and having families, and everything was great. And I just felt like I was a waste of space. And I started believing what everybody had been telling me. And they went up to the Stand Coalition and said, "Hey, you know, he's finally decided to go somewhere," which was just another trick. I had no intention of ever quitting. But I thought if I could go and try it, that they would let me come home. And I'm not against 30-day programs. I'm not against doing it at home. I'm not against any program if it gets you sober. I am for it. But my family didn't give me that option. My family sent me to Corpus Christi, Texas, to a 9-month program.
Ooh, a little hard to run that far away.
It's hard. And I tell people, you know, people say, "Why would they do that?" And I didn't realize till later. Sometimes the story happens and it's reality, but you don't really figure out what was really going on until later on. And I realized my mom and dad sent me that far away so they couldn't get to me when I wanted to come home. So I did the same thing that everybody else does across treatment centers, especially faith-based treatment centers. I called my daddy. I said, "It's a cult." Right? They believe different. And I knew because I was playing on what my mom and dad believed in. It was fake to me. So why would I care if it's a cult? Right? So, but I was playing on what they believed on. And they said, "You got to complete the program or don't ever call us again."
Oh, man.
And my mom, I don't know that my daddy had ever told me no. My mommy was the disciplinary. She was the
tough
the
love.
line.
This is what's going to happen.
And my daddy just wanted his baby to do right. That's it. And he said, "Complete the program or don't ever call me again." And I realized that I had no friends. And I said, "They're starving me to death down here." I tell them they were like, I've been there for, I don't remember how long it was, a week or two. And I said, all they're doing is feeding us fish sticks. People still give me a hard time. Frozen fish sticks is what I told them they've been eating. And my daddy said, "Complete the program or don't ever call me again." And I cussed my dad out, my hero that I love more than anything. If he calls now, "I love you, but I'll leave for him." Because he's done that for me my whole life. And my hero said, "You can't come home." And I cussed and I pitched a fit. And I went to bed. And I woke up the next morning, there was food. My mom and dad had sent food to me. Just in case I was telling the truth. Just in case. After 12 years of being a liar about I'm going to get a pack of cigarettes. I'm in North Carolina. Like nothing I said was ever the truth. And they thought maybe I really was hungry. But instead of bringing me home, they sent me food and made me stay. And I remember then, like if you're just raised around good people your whole life, you don't know what other people go through.
Yeah.
And I didn't know really until, I'd hung out with guys, done drugs with guys that I knew was kind of rough or whatever, but I didn't know how good I had it. You know, I just felt like my mom and dad were mean. They just didn't want me to have fun, and I felt like all these rules, all this junk. They just wanted me to be like my brother, and that ain't who I am. I'm my own person type of.
Do you think that was maybe some of that self-comparison?
Oh, sure. I was going to be somebody one way or another. And if I couldn't play football to make them proud, I was going for it. And I went all the way in. And after I opened up the box of food, I always like telling this story. I tell it everywhere I get to go. At the post office, those "if it fits, it ships" boxes, right? Like whatever you ship is $20, right? No, if you get it in there, no matter the weight, it goes. And I remember I opened it up, and my mom and dad told me later, because I opened it up and everything was like organized. I guess I don't know. I like organizing now. And my brother had took Skittles and opened them and poured Skittles in every empty crevice, right? So every inch
packing it
was
full of food.
And I opened it up, and all the men around me were so excited. But it didn't mean nothing to me, because my family's done that for me my whole life. Even stealing, my family's done for me. So when I noticed that maybe I had it real good, that's when probably the first time I was ever like really ashamed of myself. And so then after that, I started actually paying attention to these crazy people. And one thing always stuck out to me, I liked it like the first time I seen our preacher get mad. Like our preacher was in recovery, like he's a pastor of the church, and I thought that was cool, right? I didn't know you could be in recovery and be a pastor. Never heard that before.
Yeah, no,
right?
I hadn't either.
Thought you had to be. My idea of a pastor was somebody's always done right, always been perfect, and was perfect 24/7. That was my idea of a pastor. And I watched this guy get mad, and I was like, okay, he's just like me, right?
Yeah.
And then I watched how he dealt with it, and that helped me because I needed to see him be mad, but I also needed to see how he dealt with it. And so then I got to realizing that the smile wasn't fake, which is what I thought my whole life. Like he really was happy to be there and to help people. And I guess I started getting addicted to doing that. Nice. November 11th, 2012, I tell it everywhere I go. I don't like to talk about nothing till I tell that. Listen, it might not be everybody's way, but that's my way. Yeah. And that's when he saved me. That's what I believe. That's when my life changed. And I know that because instantly I went to talking men that was inside the treatment center into staying. And I tell everybody, every treatment center I go to, if people are leaving, that's your fault.
Yeah.
It's not the program's fault. If you're inside a program and people are leaving, that's your fault. You can talk people into staying, or you can talk people into leaving. The difference is today when they leave, they're more than likely going to die.
Yeah.
And that's on your hands.
That's scary.
That's on your hands. And so I got to talking people into not just staying there, but started calling and telling my family, send my cousins down here, send the family down, right? And I know for a good many years, a lot of people from my hometown were headed to Corpus Christi.
Now you still go there on vacation, don't you?
I take my daughter to Corpus Christi to vacation every year. My family's very first family vacation was in Corpus Christi, Texas, in rehab. Because, you know, like I tell you, they're good people. We didn't come for money. Yeah. And my daddy said, if one of us is away, we'll all be away. Mm. And they had to borrow a van that had seats like that table. And they rode 23 hours.
Wow.
To see me. And I realized that I've been lying to myself. They wasn't ashamed of me. They wanted me to do good. And they were going to help me if I would allow them. But for the longest time, I wouldn't allow them. So then I got addicted to my daddy being excited when I called him. So I never wanted to lose that. So I never wanted to leave. I was in that weird spot. I don't know whether you call it the pink cloud, the pink elephant. Like
I've heard it
whatever.
Called a few things.
It's everything. And I was just in this place where I just never wanted to screw up again.
I mean, that's your comfort too, though. Like that's where you really started your life over. Sure. So it's scary to think of anything outside of that, because anything outside of that before, changing your life was never good.
Sure. And this wasn't a normal place. Like, you go out and smoke. None of that's happening. Yeah. We're stuck inside a place. Like we call it the farm, and you don't leave. I didn't go to Walmart. and it sounds crazy to people now, but they would let us go every once in a while, like to get some groceries. I remember we'd buy all the Mountain Dew that they had in Corpus Christi. It's an East Tennessee thing, I guess. I don't know, but we bought all the Mountain Dew out, and we were so excited just to see people. Yeah. And so I ended up, long story short, I stayed in that program for 2 years of my life.
Wow.
And then I snuck home, and my mom and daddy, of course, allowed me to come back into their home. And I remember when I pulled in the driveway, the same lady that helped me get a plane ticket to Texas snuck me home 2 weeks before Mother's Day so I could surprise my mom and my dad. And they looked at me, and they said they didn't recognize who I was. Wow. So they hadn't seen me. And I believe that can happen. I mean, we all see the before and after.
Yep.
So imagine if you hadn't laid eyes on. I got one 15-minute phone call every 2 weeks to try to reconnect and to rebuild the relationship back with my family. That takes a lot of time. Yep. So then when I got back home, my mom and daddy honestly hid me in their house for a year. So 3 years protected from the world. That's why everybody says we're so proud of you, you do so great, right? But if everybody could just like push pause for 3 years, I have a feeling we'd have better success.
I agree.
And everybody don't have that option.
No, and it's sad because we need that.
Sure.
I mean, we spend years destroying our life, and people think that. And again, like you said, there's nothing against shorter term treatment, but like we get thrown back into everyday life and are just supposed to jump right in when we've not even, done some healing ourselves. Our family haven't healed, and I know for me, like I wanted that instant gratification when I went back. Like, oh, look at me, I'm in recovery, and that wasn't the case. And it's hard, that fear that I don't think we realize how much it affects our families until like there's that. Your mom and dad being overprotective, trying to hide you from the world. I had a lady go through a class once. She said that her dad, was an alcoholic for years, and he finally got into recovery. And she said, every morning I woke up thinking, is today going to be the day? And she said, it robbed me of the peace of who he was today because I was so fearful that, he would go back to that life. So it makes me have a lot of gratitude towards our families for, you got to show them a little extra love. Like, this person's here to stay.
Yeah. I don't have the data on it, but I do say addiction's 10 times harder on the family than it is on the addict because we get to check out.
Yep.
Right? I'm having a bad day. I get my thing, and life's better for me. But my mom and dad said every night when it was cold and rainy, they couldn't sleep. And when you said, is today the day? That's the same thing they said. Is this the night? I've totaled vehicles one right in front of my mom and dad's house. You could see it from their porch. I'm standing there. Had 12. I mean, my head was cut open. I ended up having to have 12 staples put in it. I'm knocking on the door, and my mom and dad said, "What are you doing?" And I don't know how I got there. Somehow I walked from the crash up there and told them I was with some random guy. They called the guy. He said he hadn't seen me in months.
Oh,
and,
no.
And I just totaled a vehicle a month before that, and my mom said, not again. And they looked out and they found my car. But also being the family that they are, they knew the law's coming. And they know Randy has things in his vehicle. And my family took me out the back door. And they run me up to my grandma's. And my grandma hid me. And everybody always protected, still to this day, in recovery, and I go around and speak, and I wear my heart on my sleeve, if you cannot tell. I'm a real person, I feel real, but God still places people to protect me.
Yep.
And I try to protect other people, and I believe when you do that, I have people who don't talk about me bad in rooms.
Yep.
I have people that will protect me. And so my family has always protected me. My mama was a nurse, and they took me up to the hospital. They doctored me up. And one of the funnier parts of my story is they come up and they're trying to do a blood alcohol on me. And I ain't no dummy, right? Like, I don't know the court system. I don't know the legal system. But I know this. You're trying to charge me with a DUI for drinking. If you get my blood, you've got more. Different. And so I denied it and didn't know that's the right move to go. But later on in life, when 7 years after into my sobriety, they helped me get my record expunged, and she's actually Judge Ellis now in Scott County. She said, "Randy, why did you plead out on a seatbelt violation to a DWI?" And I said, "Oh, I didn't do that." And she said, "Yes, you did."
Oh, wow.
So what they had told me was a DUI, but if I take the plea, would be a DWI, right? And I didn't know, but all they really had me on was a seatbelt violation. And people say, how would you do that? Well, it's that easy. If you just hand me the paper, say, if you'll just sign this, I'm not reading it. If I can go home, if you're telling me this is the better deal, I just believe that. Like, how crazy is that?
And we see it every day
Happens
with the folks that we're working with. Like, that's one of the reasons, like, why we started this podcast, because like we want to tell the stories of those who haven't had the space to do so and start advocating.
Sure.
Because when we say it all the time, when we know better, we do better. So like if we know like what we're looking at and that was a terrible idea to accept, maybe we would have done something differently.
Read that paper.
Yes.
Have a lawyer look at that
Read
thing.
the fine print.
Take the time. You ain't got nothing but time anyway. I know 30 minutes seems like, but read that thing. So yeah, that was a crazy little deal.
So what would you say, like, throughout your journey has been your biggest support system?
It gets tricky. My family's always, I mean, right now, just to come over here today, I stopped by this morning on the way, hadn't talked to my mom and dad yesterday. I stopped by and said, oh yeah, by the way, I'm going to Knoxville. I don't think I'm going to be able to make it back to pick Addie up. I might have to cancel. They said, no, we'll just go get her. And
Nice.
where her cousins stay at, it's actually my brother's ex-wife, Tim and Samantha's house. They watch her all the time for me. And, I've got my church, which I thought was the most judgmental, talk about me, put me down. But they didn't know how to talk to me. I have to understand that now. Are there judgmental people in the church? Yes, there is. Are there hypocrites? Yes, they are. I am one, sometimes myself. But it don't stop me from going to Walmart. It don't stop me from shopping anywhere I shop at. And I had to realize that there's good and bad, and sometimes I'm good. In some people's story, I'm a good guy. In some people's story, I'm the devil himself. And I have to give other people that grace too. And my church supported me. And when I realized I didn't have to hide no more, that everybody's day wasn't surrounded about waking up and seeing how big of a piece of trash Randy Byrge is. This is a real thing in my mind. And you ever hear some people say, hey, everybody's not thinking about you. You're not that important. But for me, I thought that's all
you get stuck in that guilt
law
and shame,
looks
so
for.
everybody's seeing it because that's all you feel and see when you look at yourself.
Sure. So to come out of that, and the people walk through stuff with me, helped. Getting this job and working around people, like me, is amazing, where I can just be myself. It's like
you ain't got to hide.
When I can dress who I am and act who I am, and then I thrive. When I ain't got to pretend. I've said this for years. Addicts can adapt to anything. We're chameleons. You can put me in a room with the judge, I can hang with the judge. You put me in the room with the dope boys, I can hang with the dope boys. That's part of it, right? But I try not to adapt so far. I still try to control my language. I still try to control some of the dirty jokes, even though I think some things are funny, probably shouldn't be funny.
Yeah.
I'm a weirdo.
I think it's also like a coping mechanism because of the work that we do can be so heavy and dark sometimes. Sometimes that's the only way we can, get through the day without having a complete meltdown because it's heavy. Only a small percentage of folks that have struggled with addiction actually, come into a form of recovery and stay in recovery.
Yeah. One of the things that helped me the most was when one of our bosses, Jamie Harper, had talked to us, and he was telling about some of this stuff that went on in his life and where he just got really stressed out and burned out. And I don't tell anybody else's story, but, it just led him to a bad spot. And we've been in that spot, in this job, because you're helping people, and how can you turn off helping people? It just didn't make sense until it made sense. Until I said, if I keep doing that all the time, I tell people I've daydreamed about stocking groceries at Walmart. I just feel like I can't make people mad there.
Yep.
Like no one's going to hate me. No one's going to be upset with me because I can't save them, and I don't save anyone. Like at best, I give information. That's the best thing I can do, right? There is no perfect speech. I can't just say these magic words and these magic things happen. The best thing I can do is say, here's some options.
Yeah. Let me tell you what worked for me.
And the beautiful thing is when somebody says, I do not care. My magic key phrase is, I do not care. I'll do whatever it takes. Yeah. I like that spot. That's where I was at. Because I didn't have any other option. Don't be proud of me. If I could have left, I'd have left. If I could have went somewhere else, I would have went somewhere else. If my family would have just saved me and brought me home, that's what I would have done. But I didn't have that option. And I think that's what saved my life.
What would you say are some of the barriers that you might have faced walking through your recovery journey?
Since being home? Mm-hmm. Oh, the job thing was going to be one big thing for me. Because I'd always worked out on the road. I worked for a company called Fastenal. I set up the stores and I was making good money. But I learned this thing, this bad word in treatment called accountability. I didn't like it, but I kind of got used to it. Yeah. And that's why I still make my bed every morning. I make Addie's bed every morning. Like, why? Nobody's coming to my house. We don't have visitors, but I like doing that. And accountability helped me because if I'm not hiding anything, if you ask me where I'm going when I leave here, I'm going to tell you the truth because I don't want to lie. Yeah. I mean, telling the truth is one big thing. I honestly think I can stand on. If you're just going to be straight up honest, I don't think you get high. If you can just be honest about everything, because you can't just go to the cigarette store and go. If you're just honest with everybody, including yourself, which is very hard, I think that helps you. But
and that includes being honest when you're struggling, because a lot of times, like doing the work that we do, like we try to act like we got it all together. Oh no, we don't have bad days.
No.
And we internalize a lot of stuff. And I've learned, like, telling people, hey, like, I'm struggling, like, holds me accountable, because somebody else is going to ask me, you know, how are you doing?
Sure.
How are you really doing?
So often I think people know what helps them, know what changed their life, but we become or want to become the very thing that we hated. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. But I would do it myself, you know, when people would love on me and help me and encourage me. When things aren't going my way, I get upset and want to shut everybody out. Well, that don't make any sense, right?
Yeah.
Or when I see people, I told you, like the preacher, when I seen him get mad and I watched how he dealt with things, that helped me. Because I had this other reality in my mind. People say, well, that wasn't real. Well, it was real to me. So when I watched people not try to be perfect, not try to act like they had it all together, to say, hands up, hey, listen, I like it where the Bible says, I'm the least of the least. I'm the lowest of the dirtiest you got me, right? The chief among sinners. I'm that guy, right? And I tell people all the time that I deal with and that I get to talk to, and I have the privilege of walking with them. I'm a mess. The only difference in me now, my mind's still got issues. My body still has issues. I still live in the same place, but today I try. I don't always get it right. Maybe I haven't done drugs in 12 years, but that don't mean some of the things I run through my mind aren't still messed up. But every single day I wake up and I try. And I think my God sees that.
Yep.
And maybe my try doesn't hit the level of a lot of people's try. My try is probably pretty low some days. But I tell people all the time, I'm not the scale. Don't
Very
look
true.
at me for the scale. I'm not. If you look at me for the scale, you're probably doing real good most days. I'm not the scale.
I heard it said once, you only fail when you quit trying.
Yep.
So get up every morning and try to do better than you did yesterday.
Try.
And it stuck with me, you know, like, you know, I have bad days, and I used to be one of those that would try to hide it from the world until you can't hide it no more. It just comes out.
Yeah.
And so when I realized, like, oh man, everybody ain't gonna look at me funny for having a bad day. Like, I gotta get up and try harder to do better than I did yesterday.
Sure.
And it makes all the difference.
And if you don't open up about it, how can someone help you?
That's exactly
How can
it.
someone say,
and that's
hey,
part of the
I've
reason
been
why we
through
used,
that.
because we sat in our own mess. We internalized everything and thought everybody was against us. But when you are including everybody in your struggle and you have support and accountability, it makes all the difference in the world.
I think if I can just keep myself from being against myself, I'm going to be okay.
We're our worst enemy at times.
Sure. Yeah.
So doing the work that you do, if you could have access to any resource that would make your job a little bit easier, like what would it be? What do you see a gap in?
For me?
Yep.
My job? I wish, I don't know who to scale it to anymore. I guess it's like, I wish I could get Cumberland Heights treatment for the people with no money, no insurance.
Yeah.
I wish when that phone rang, I wasn't scared to death if Buffalo Valley
Equal access
had a
to
job.
that kind of
I
treatment
wish
across the board.
right. I went to Corners. I probably shouldn't drop it anyway. I went to Cornerstone one time, and they had a private chef, and I thought, how great was that? Because we're making frozen pizzas in the place I'm at, right? And our
we're
guys
living
are
off a
cooking,
budget.
The guys are cooking for us that hated to cook, you know? And so the food is, right, like, maybe it was fish sticks for a few days. Maybe that part was really true. I wasn't starving, but it's like, can you imagine if we believe that food helps our mental health, right? If we could have that for them. For
I
me,
agree.
the biggest thing is if I could pick up that phone and knew I could get them the top-notch treatment like my family has done for me, I think I'd be off to the races.
I think some of the folks that we work with don't even have a family anymore. You know, one of the things I've seen is that, you know, they say addiction's generational. Like some of these traumas are generational, and a lot of times we see folks that they've lost their family to addiction, and that they are all they have is themselves.
So what's the backup plan?
what next?
What else
How do
is there?
you know, you got to continue to love them. You know,
That's also why we push. You can't get sober for your kids. You can't get sober for your
No,
mom.
you gotta do it for
What if you
yourself.
don't have? And that sounds so bad to some people. Because I tell people I can't stay sober for my daughter today, and that sounds so bad to people. But the truth is if that's all there is, if something happens, I have nothing. But the benefit is if I do it for me, she reaps all the benefits.
all the benefits.
I tell people all the time, maybe I didn't get sober for me. Maybe there is nothing in it for me. Maybe this is as good as it gets for me. But the life that she has, and when she comes running in the living room just the other day after drawing, she's not in there drawing dirty. So she come in with a peel. She drew a peel with eyes, and said, "Don't do drugs at the bottom."
Man.
And said, "This is for all the buck-gotters." That's what she said.
Oh, that gives me
I'm
chills. That is
thinking,
awesome.
That's my legacy.
Raising them
Maybe I
up right.
messed my life up, but she's going to be something. I'm going to make sure of it. That don't mean money. That don't mean politicians. That means I'm going to raise a good person. And I get to do that today. I'm showing up for it today. Because I want it. I want her to be mad at me sometimes. I want her to tell me about her crappy boyfriends, right? I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
So I'll end on this. If you could tell your past self something, what would it be?
I've had this before. And I tell, like, when I played football, my mom and daddy was the ones that would yell from the bleachers. You could hear them on the football field like real folks.
Them loud parents.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm
And
one of
any
those.
issue I ever had in my life, without fail, my default was go talk to dad. I mean, this guy's already figured it out. He's raising 3 boys. He's working 2 jobs. Everybody around. I mean, you ever see people that don't have money that everybody loves? It's a weird thing, right? You got to be doing something right. So I knew always go and talk to my dad. That there was no other option. I never had to do anything else. But that day that the bad thing, my trauma occurred, right? I didn't do that. And I wish on that day, if I could just do anything, I could say, just talk to your dad.
Yeah.
And I know he would have given me good advice. I know he would have helped me. And maybe I wouldn't have ruined 12 years. But we did.
But here you are
And I'm
today,
here for it.
turning your pain into a purpose. How beautiful is that?
That's right. It's real. It's a real thing. I don't mind to cry in front of people. I'm a real person. I tell people all the time, when you do jobs like we do, if you're that open, if you open up to everybody, then everybody can hurt you. That's a real thing.
Yeah, it is.
We're allowing everybody to hurt us.
And sometimes it hurts. You know,
It
they
does.
say the good thing about recovery is you get your feelings back. And
worst part?
the bad part about it is you get your feelings back.
That's right.
But in all honesty, I remember not feeling anything
I want
for a
'em.
long time. And as hard as things are sometimes, the things and struggles and trials we walk through, I couldn't imagine not feeling them now.
My mama was probably one of the greatest people I'd ever been around. And I remember being at her funeral and everybody else crying. I loved her. I tell everybody, she loved me more than any of them. She'd tell, but I couldn't even work up a tear. And drugs just numb you.
Yeah.
Wanting to feel. Knowing. It was a real thing. I really loved her, right? But there was no tears to be had. I don't know that I ever cried over it till, I remember after being so inside it was a year. I remember everything being great, and then all of a sudden every wrong thing I did just hit me, and it wrecked me. You know,
I'm a cry. I cry at everything. It does not take much. I'm very emotional. I tell people that, and I try to suck it in and hide it and go another. It just comes out, and it is what it is. I really want to thank you for being here today and sitting down and sharing your story and letting folks know we can go through hard things, but we can turn around and use those hard things for good. So thank you to everybody who has joined us today. I really want you to think about some action steps. What can you do to continue growing and moving forward in your own recovery? Or what can you do to help somebody else advance in their recovery walk? Until next time.